Yeah, I absolutely think that the conditions of the Southwest shape the people, and I think they shape the society. I don't think it's an accident that the American Southwest is very hot, is very dry, is one of the hardest places to live in terms of nature in America, maybe in the world, and that it also leads to a lot of I mean, the Southwest is a very polarized place. There's a lot of hatred, there's a lot of political tension, there's a lot of violence. There's a disproportionate amount of violence in the American West. There always has been, ever since it was first, and ever since the frontier. It's always been a place that's known for violence. And so I do think that the conditions dictate that in a lot of ways. It's a very empty landscape. People can go and hide there, and people go to the Southwest to try to find, to try to hide from civilization in a lot of cases. I think that applied to my mother. I think it applied to Ray. And a lot of people have always gone to the Southwest hoping to reinvent their lives, and then a lot of times they wind up disappointed with their inability to do so. And so I think the landscape itself is a really defining force for a lot of the people in my book and a lot of the people that live there. Yeah, I think the book is very much a class-conscious book, because I think a lot of the issues of violence and gun ownership and concepts of masculinity overlap with class issues in the United States. All those issues tend to influence and to affect the lower classes vastly disproportionately. I mean, even in terms of just in terms of domestic violence or murder. You know, if you're a working class person in America, you're much more likely to wind up in those situations, to be a victim of domestic violence, to be a victim of murder. Moving to San Francisco from Arizona was a culture shock, because in Arizona, you know, where I grew up, everybody owned guns. And I mean that literally, everybody, every family. I don't think I knew a single family that didn't have a gun in the home, because it's a rural place, it's a working class place. And there you can't depend on the police in the way that you can in cities or in sort of higher income places. You know, if in Tombstone, if you called the police for something, they would take a very long time to show up, and sometimes they wouldn't show up at all. And so people have that idea that they have to be self-reliant, and so that they have to own guns. And then once I got to San Francisco, it's a very different place in terms of even gun laws, very literally. You know, the gun laws there prohibit a lot of gun ownership. And the culture there is of people who tend not to be familiar with guns. So that was the first time I ever found myself trying to explain to people what it's like to grow up in a culture where everybody owns guns, and you're explaining it to people who have never experienced that, you know, and who have never held a gun.